Alright, so originally I was going to make this video on just how unbeginner-friendly Dead by Daylight is, but the further I dove into it, the further I started talking, I just realized how many issues Dead by Daylight have in general. With that being said, I am changing the video format from a why Dead by Daylight isn't beginner-friendly to a kind of the problematic state Dead by Daylight has found itself in 2024. There are going to be a lot of things discussed during this video, so I'm going to try to leave timestamps here on screen, so if something else interests you and something else doesn't, just feel free to, click the little thing down below or just skip to this time to, see what you see. With all of that out of the way, the first thing we're going to be talking about today is going to be basically how Dead by Daylight is not beginner friendly. This is what the original video was supposed to be about, but I decided to combine everything into one. Dead by Daylight is not beginner friendly. And hopefully me saying that is going to bring zero controversy or anything like that, because I personally think, and I think a lot of people also do think, that this game is extremely unfair for beginners. And not only is it just unfair, it is borderline just pay to win almost. It's almost pay to win. I definitely think the biggest issue with it not being beginner friendly is the perk selection that you get when you first start out the game. In Dead by Daylight, there are 7 franchise survivors, basically meaning that when you first load up the game, you have 7 survivors that you get for free. And with each of those survivors having 3 unique perks themselves, you get a nice little handful, double digits of perks to choose from, which don't sound bad to begin with. But real quick, I'm going to throw up a tier list of all the perks that kind of like the community have ranked over the past few, months, years, whatever, of, here's the list that basically beginners get to start off with. As you can see, the list isn't extremely great. Yeah, you have your S tier, your A tiers, but you also have a lot of like low tier perks, which is just not very fun if you're a survivor. Which also, these perks are also going to include a lot of the general perks that you get when you first play the game as well. So there's also a handful of general perks that, are just free. You don't have to buy anybody for them or anything like that. You just unlock them through, the Blood Web. And some of them are actually really good, like Kindred, Deja Vu, stuff like that. And then there's, other ones that are just not very good. Which this also goes for killer as well. There's a lot of killer perks. I'm a killer man myself when I first started playing. There are a lot of killer perks in this game, which if I could actually find my first like ever main build for Huntress, I'm going to try to show it on screen right now. This is the perk, like these are the perks I was running before I bought Barbecue, Lethal Pursuer, all that good stuff. I'm going to try to find an image. If not, it's just going to be a blank screen, sadly. Basically what I'm getting at is brand new players are kind of given the short stick of the entire everything. they literally have next to nothing when starting out in this game, and it's just a extremely long grind to unlock anything in this game. And the upsetting thing is like you're spending a lot of time. You're spending 50 to 60 hours getting enough shards to unlock one character just for that one perk and stuff like that. Because a lot of the characters that on oddstarver.com, when he lists as high priority, don't even have good secondary or third perks to like make it worth spending 9,000 or 4,500 shards getting. Luckily, Dead by Daylight does have this thing called the Shrine of Secrets, is where you can purchase perks every week. It's 2 survivor perks, 2 killer perks. You have the option to, pick 2 basic licensed perks from, licensed killers or survivors. But sadly, the rotation is sometimes really bad, especially because it's still pretty expensive to buy the perks as well from the shrine. So if you're a new player, you just bought the game and it's like, hey, pain res is in the shrine right now, you should get it. You're not gonna have 2,500 shards or however much it is now to get pain res before most likely that week is up. And my entire option to fix this entire non-beginner friendly is just make it where the Shrine of Secrets rotates every other day or every 2 days or something like that, or add more perks to it every week. Something like, instead of just 2 survivor, 2 killer, about 4 killer, 4 survivor. Just make it where if you are a new player, you can have more options to get better perks early on versus having to spend real money for licensed characters for that one perk that they may use with their build. Which I'm going to go ahead and try to tie this into our second topic, which is going to be the Blood Web. The Blood Web is a very outdated feature in Dead by Daylight, in my personal opinion. I think it's very clunky, very slow to empty your blood points into, and the rewards for it aren't extremely great either. I think the Blood Web is a very outdated feature in Dead by Daylight. I think it needs a really big buff, personally. I think it should turn from a Blood Web into a Blood Shop, most likely. The amount of times where I've spent over 400,000 blood points or 300,000 blood points trying to grab one glowing concoction from a P100 blood web is astonishing, and it's kind of disappointing, to be honest. Because for my main kit of Huntress, I run the Oak Haft and the Glowing Concoction, which is a yellow add-on and a purple add-on. While yellow add-ons are pretty common in the Blood Web, which I'm going to try to show up my inventory right now, yellow add-ons are pretty common in the Blood Web. Purple ones and iridescents kind of get on the more rare side. And personally, as a man that likes budgeting and not running below a certain amount of anything in real life or in the games that I play, I don't like being below like 50 glowing concoctions. So I personally would be just spamming that middle button until I see a glowing concoction, and then I would, obviously select it. But the amount of times that I've just hit that button and I just see my blood point counter go from like 2 million, 0.8, 1.5, until I only get like a handful of glowing concoction, maybe 3 or 4 a stream, is kind of upsetting when I'm spending almost 1 million blood points just to grab a handful of glowing concoction. So that's why I want to say, just turn the blood web into a blood shop where you're able to go through and select items that you want, add-ons that you want, and just being able to actually spend your blood points that you earn on stuff that you actually want instead of useless junk like reefs and, Dark into the Mist and stuff that rarely ever gets used for both survivor and killer. Which obviously there will be limitations to it, such as, Bloody Party streamers, Survivor Puddings, and, Escape Cake, stuff like that. Obviously, those will need a restriction or some type of other formal system. Also, even if there is a limit to how many items you could purchase per day or per, like, session or something like that, like, obviously there can be limitations in place. Or even if it's just, like, a rotating item shop. But me personally, I would gladly spend a little bit of extra blood points on one glowing concoction versus having to sit there, spam the middle button until I see that one glowing concoction, and then I'm out, 300,000 blood points because of it. And for the third topic of tonight, it still kind of wraps into the Blood Web, which is going to be map offerings and the map rotations. So personally, I don't mind having map offerings. I like to use them on Huntress and some other killers because I personally don't like playing indoor maps. I don't necessarily bring an extremely strong build for certain maps. I'm not abusing certain parts of the map or anything like that when it comes to map offerings. The amount of times where I've been sent to RPD or Area Crows and the survivors are running, it's a Swift, they're running Boil Over, Sabotage, Breakdown, Unbreakable, stuff like that to abuse the map or abuse certain parts of the map or abuse, in-game mechanics to try to get an advantage for that map for their Swift. And then it becomes a really weird situation, especially if I'm live streaming, because if I start slugging or tunneling or, camping or something like that just to confirm hook stages, because it's going to be a very, very hard time to hook these people. And then I get flagged for it, sadly. Which I'm not saying killer's completely instant either. I don't think killer mains, intentionally send themselves to certain maps to give them, a greater benefit. I think most of them just don't want to play on other certain maps, such as, like, I personally send myself to Record Yard because I don't want to play indoor maps. I don't want to play Larry's RPD all night. So I send myself to certain maps just so I don't play other maps. But then there's also killers like Nurse that might send themselves to Midwich because, it's Nurse, Midwich. And then they also might, have killers send themselves like Myers to Larry's or RPD, stuff like that. So basically, it's a big mess. And I definitely think that map offerings should either be limited to a higher rarity item, not eerie add-ons, but definitely like more like purple offerings. I say add-ons. More of a purple offering or something like that instead of a green one, because right now I'm gonna try to pull up a screenshot of my personal loadout. This is on a like P20 Rebecca, and then this is on my P100 Huntress that I have well over 1,000 hours in. And I have a lot. I can make so many killers or so many survivor lives miserable if I just wanted myself, like, send myself to Cold Wind for the next week and a half. Long story short, basically, I just wish the map rotations were a little bit better just so I have a higher chance of getting a nice big outdoor map like Wreckage Yard or Cold Wind or a McMillan map even, versus having this opportunity of getting sent to an RPD West Wing or RPD East Wing or a Larry's or a Hawkins or something like that along those lines, or a Midwich even. They're just unfun. I'm not saying they're, not good for Huntress. They're just boring, uninteractive, and I personally just don't like them. Alright, so we got covered the big three things I want to talk about during the video, which was the beginner friendliness, the blood web, And then the map offerings or map rotation, that those were kind of the big issues that I personally had with the game. And now we're kind of moving on to the second string, I guess, of stuff that I would like to at least talk about. Obviously, these aren't the biggest issues in the game, but these are a lot of issues I've seen online. And personally, I would like, these are kind of things that can be hot fixed relatively soon as well. First one of this subsection is going to be the ping issue or Huntress hitboxes and stuff like that. Basically, ping plays a very, very, very high part of Dead by Daylight. Like it's insane on how 50 ms and 30 ms is night and day. When other FPS games or any other games, 50 and 30 don't even make a difference. And when you add wonky hitboxes, which I covered the Huntress hitboxes in my other video, y'all should go check it out. Link in description. But I covered the hitboxes of the Huntress recently in another video, and we all know they're pretty doo-doo. Especially with the Survivor's hitboxes also being pretty doo-doo, which I'm going to try to show up images on the screen right now. When you include the ping issues that people may be occurring and everything like that, it's just very, very unfun. Hatchets get hit around corners and everything like that just because hit detection and everything like that. But to even add to this is there's even times where Huntress is getting robbed of hatchets, which happens all the time, which I'm going to try to stay silent for a little bit and just let a few of these clips play out. So. What the, dude? That hit chat. You lose stock? Bro, oh, come on, bro. So my fix for this would basically be, honestly, I don't even know. I'm not a game developer, nor am I a big server poster or anything like that. So I actually don't even know where you would begin with this issue, but make it to basically where, I don't know, like servers are more widespread around the US or something, or like in, all parts of the world. Make it to where maybe ping doesn't play that big, or like at least fix the hitboxes maybe, so where they actually determine Huntress hatchets and pallets and stuff like that, to where you just don't get hit from behind corners and stuff or something. Like, I mean, I don't know how they necessarily would change the ping issue, but they could definitely change the Huntress issue. The next topic is going to be the reward system and the P100 and the hours that you put into this game, and it doesn't feel rewarding. And a lot of other titles, there are a lot of different reward systems that make players keep coming back and back and back, and they're actually engaging and enjoying it. Either that be a ranked mode or a certain, achievement or a cosmetic or something that they get for reaching a certain level in a video game, or a certain prestige or something like that. In Call of Duty, you get the Mastery Prestige logos and stuff like that you see in lobby. And Dead by Daylight, you get the P100 that they're taking away for some. In Battlefield 4, you got the the Colonel 100 knife, which is a bipod knife. It looks really cool. Look at this, the C100. Basically, when you're playing Dead by Daylight, I'm trying to figure out, outside of it being fun or whatever, what keeps people coming back? Why would a new player or a semi-new player, let's say someone with 300, 400, 500 hours, where I was originally at, before I decided to start making a lot of content of this game, what makes them keep coming back? There's no rank mode in this game. They can't view the P100s anymore. There's no cosmetics that they get rewarded for reaching certain milestones on their P journey, outside their P100 journey, outside of the bloody cosmetics, which they get from only reaching P9. I mean, that's P9 to P100. There's plenty of opportunity for them to add different cosmetics for their journey, or charms, even if it's charms. There needs to be something in place to make it rewarding to play this game, because right now a lot of the rewards and charms and cosmetics are just behind paywalls, or like codes that you have to grab from Twitter. Which, to be honest, I think this issue should be moved up to I on my script I have first issues, second issues, and third issues. I definitely think the rewards issue might even be moved up to first, and maybe the map offerings would be moved back down to second issues. Because honestly, I just don't find this game super rewarding to play like other games. And that might be my personal opinion. If anybody has any, feel free to differ from me. I love engaging with my community and just different, opinions about the matter. This isn't something that I've talked to people on Twitter about yet or anything like that, which after I make this video, I'm definitely going to send out a tweet just to see everybody's feedback on it. I'm definitely very interested in what other people have about this. And the third topic for the second column, I guess is what we're gonna call it, not column, is the game modes and modifiers. Honestly, the game modes and modifiers have been pretty fun until they're not. I think the 2v8 game mode was extremely fun until it wasn't. Until the queue times kind of got unbearable for streaming purposes, or even just like sitting in queue at like 11 p.m. at night when you're off work and you have your buddies on, and you just want to duo with your killer buddy, and you're sitting in queue for 20 something minutes, and then the game pops, and then someone leaves or something happens, and then it's just. Which, to be honest, that's not on behavior at all. That's more on the community for either not that's just like, it's just not enough people to go around. Basically, you need 8 survivors and 2 killers, and the killers have to be different. Which there's only like 6 different killers that were available, 7 different killers that were available. Sorry, no, was it what was it 5, 6, something like that? It was all the base ones. So however many that is, I think it's only 5. So like 5 base killers, both of them have to be different, plus 8 random survivors. Obviously, I think they removed the MMR and everything like that, but they tried their best to make the queue times as low as possible with what they were given. But I definitely think that we can all agree some of the game modes have been pretty lackluster, especially like the lights out game mode that is going to be coming back relatively soon. I just saw it on Twitter like 20 hours ago, that it's going to be making its return in September, which I personally didn't care for. I think it was fun for the first 3 matches. I played a little bit Death Slinger. It's a very, jump scare killer in that type of mode where you just kind of get sucked into the void if I spear you, or a Huntress match even. But playing Survivor for it was kind of unfun. My Little Oni, another funny, goofy game mode, but the queue times weren't really adding up to how long the matches lasted. I don't think I've ever played an Oni game where anybody ever escaped from me, or played a Survivor game where I personally escaped. So it got very, very repetitive after the first just couple hours of playing. I definitely think the Chaos Shuffle was their best mode yet. Chaos Shuffle was extremely, extremely fun. I think if they could somehow combine the 2v8 game mode and the Chaos Shuffle game mode, I definitely think they will have a, kind of key for success there. Or even the lights out in Chaos Shuffle, I definitely think that will help out the, the survivors not really having that great of an advantage compared to the killers, and so on and so on. I definitely think that would just be a better option and something that is replayable because it's something new every single game. So I definitely think that if they just kind of rotate out game modes every week or every other week or something like that, where there's just always something fresh to play in Dead by Daylight outside of the base game itself. Like one week it'll be lights out, next week it'll be Chaos Shuffle, or some type of combination of the both. I think there's a lot of games out there that kind of do this, where they just rotate out their limited time modes. Just they play all 4 modes in a month or something like that. There's definitely a way they could do it. I just don't know why they're not doing it. All right, for the third part of the video, we're gonna be talking about a couple of issues that I personally also kind of find a little annoying. But this is also can send Dead by Daylight down a very, very dark path. And so right now there is an epidemic in the gaming community, or like just game developers in general, always think that like everything needs to be more complicated. Like killer powers in Dead by Daylight have become more and more complicated over the past few, however knows long, the past year, probably since like the Night. I would say the Night has 3 different guards that you have to learn what each guard does. And that's not even including the add-ons for, the guards and stuff like that you can add. Obviously, an experienced player of 5,000 plus hours is going to know everything that guard, like that knight, can do. But if you're little Jimmy, downloaded the game, 30 hours max, goes against the knight for like, you have to play against the knight so many times to actually understand what he does. And that's kind of where the game's going. Like that direction of the killers are getting more and more complicated powers, which will send new players kind of like running or confused and having to force themselves to look up different tutorials and what they do and everything like that. And it's just, once again, not in that beginner friendly game that it should be. Which, to give credit to behavior, this is not just a behavior Dead by Daylight thing. There's tons of games that you quit for 6 months, and they add 3 new characters that just you have to read paragraphs about their character information. R6 does this. League of Legends does this. Valorant kind of does this, except Valorant I think is a little bit easier to understand. Some of their champion abilities or agent abilities, sorry, but definitely with the release of like the Unknown, Skull Merchant, the Knight, Dracula, and Vecna, it's gonna be a lot for a lot of players to understand. Like, why does Skull Merchant, go undetectable? Like when I'm playing with somebody new, and it's like, oh, we're going to get a Skull Merchant. I don't want to have to read a paragraph of abilities that she's able to. Oh yeah, she's able to go undetectable, speed up, broken, able to throw drones. Oh, and you have to also play a mini game just to get rid of the drone. Like, I don't want to teach a new player all that. I want to teach a player, hey, don't get hit by the hillbilly chainsaw. Oh, hey, if you hear a bell, the wraith is near you and is probably going to swing and lunge at you. Oh, trapper, don't step in his traps. Like, there's like, I miss simple killer designs and just character designs all across the board from other developers as well. Like, not just behavior. I wish League of Legends kind of goes back to this as well, where it's just like, oh, Scion, hit Q to hit, slam your hammer down. Like, super simple, basic abilities. Which, just to try to prove my point just a little bit further, here is a list of the Wraith and the new Hillbilly, by the way, the new Hillbilly with Overdrive. And then here is a list of Vecna and Dracula. You have to scroll down this website to read all their character information. All right, the next thing we're going to be talking about is cheaters. Cheaters is something that's been coming up a lot more in Dead by Daylight, and it's never really obvious cheater. Which I'm going to try to pull up a few images and videos of me going against cheaters in my games. It's very, very annoying, and kind of like one of those things, it's like, why does behavior not do anything about them? And it's also not just like the blatant cheaters either. It's the subtle cheaters that also kind of make a lot of people go, is that guy cheating? Why is he a little bit faster? Is he only 5% faster than normal? Does he have MFT? Is he broken? Or is he in deep wound? Can he have MFT here? Or was that a Lythe, or was he just cheating, or where did he go? Why is he so quiet? Like, like there's so many things that you should just like suss people out for cheating. And once again, as a streamer, that if I'm like, hey, that guy might be cheating, I'm gonna go ahead and just report him just in case. All right. And then that survivor enters my stream and is like, oh, why are you reporting me? That's what does. It's like, hey man, you never know with this game anymore. So basically, behavior is kind of poor excuse for an anti-cheat. Just makes it to where it's always a guessing game when you're going against good survivors. It's like, hey, does this guy just have walls or something? Like, why does he always know where I'm at? Like, where I'm at? Why am I always losing the 50-50s? Even if they're just a really good survivor, which I give credit. If they're a really, really good survivor, I always give credit and stuff like that. But at the same time, you always have to be cautious just because there's so many cheaters in this game, and you never know. This is going to be the last issue I talk about in this video. So far, I hope you guys have been enjoying the video. But this is the last issue I'm going to be talking about, which is going to be the AFK, DC, and players that just hide. I know that's a lot to cover. So the first thing is the AFK players. The ones that just don't want to do anything. But they're not AFK. They're just not doing gens. These are the ones that I personally do not like. They're just, like, usually it's always like the last 2 survivors. Both of them are probably like only like 1 hook away from death, and they're just waiting for the other survivor to get found and die so they have attempt to get hatched or something like that. And neither of them are doing gens or nothing, so you're kind of lost, like wandering around the map for 15 minutes until one of them accidentally makes a mistake or they get a crow or something like that, and then you're able to end the game there. That just is super boring playstyle, and I wish there was a system in place to where if you're not touching a generator or doing an objective or something like that, then you get crows, because just, crouching in the corner of the map, waiting for the other guy to die, not a very healthy place. DCing players is also a big issue in Dead by Daylight. Recently, I think it was my last game before I took my stream break or whatever, I had 2 players DC instantly as soon as we basically loaded into the match, and then another player gave up on hook, and the match ended there. I felt really bad because I wanted to play my game, and they obviously weren't having it. It's just, I kind of wish I knew what makes people happy in Dead by Daylight to where I can enjoy playing the game while also making survivors and other people enjoy the game as well, because I personally don't like seeing people DC against me. It actually makes me mad because I consider myself to play a pretty healthy playstyle. I don't slug, I don't camp, I don't tunnel, I don't I don't generally do any of that unless it's a, you know, like I said earlier, like if it's a map offering or if I know they're actually giving it their all, then I'll give it my all. So it just becomes a little bit of a like, oh come on, man, like the game's over. Why'd you DC type situation? Which goes and kind of to my next point of also just dying on hook first stage or whatever. Like their first hook, I definitely think there should be some type of penalty in place to for instantly, you know, dying on your first hook. I obviously the game is smart enough to hopefully know that dying on first hook from your teammates just leaving you there versus dying on first hook from you accidentally missing skill checks and, you know, attempting 4 times in a row. Like obviously that is two distinctly different, hey, I'm done with this game. Because that also puts your team into a very awful situation, and then the game's over at 5 gens because you decided you don't want to play against Huntress, Skull Merchant, Knight, Myers, whatever. So I definitely think there should definitely be some type of penalty for DCing, and obviously there's already a penalty for DCing, but I definitely think there should be a penalty for dying on first hook as well, because it's just not fun. Like, play the game, guys. Play the game, please. With that all being said, there also are a ton of different issues that I'm probably just going to bring up throughout the video. Like I'm probably going to leave like little tool notes and, you know, maybe even some stuff in the description, or I might make a second video to this if there's enough, you know, interest involved in it. But that's basically some of the things that I have issues with. So we're just, you know, between it not being super beginner friendly, the maps kind of being awful when it comes to rotations and map offerings, and the Blood Web, you know, being old, outdated, the Huntress hitbox registrations and ping issues all across the board for every single killer, and just no real incentive to play the game, especially when there's not even like a competitive scene necessarily. Like, yeah, there's a comp scene, but there's not a comp scene, you know, like there's a comp scene, but not a competitive scene, I should say. I think that's a better way to put it. But hopefully relatively soon someone will come out of nowhere and fix all this stuff. But I hope everyone did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, and I'll catch you all in the next discussion video. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.